we're back. Another episode of Gilligan's Island. Here with the skipper.
Still haven't got off the island. We're stuck.
All right. Another episode of Specialty Sales Video Blog. Today we are talking about Cam-Lock Couplings. An easy way
not
to...
Cam Newton either. These are Cam.
That's
couplings.
right. Cam-Lock, Cam-operated couplings. Easy, quick connect, quick disconnect, used across a variety of applications. We offer them in several different materials, each of which has its own benefits, pros and cons. And so Patrick is going to go through each of these and talk about what each of them are and what their applications are.
Well, and thank you very much, Darrin, for that introduction. Appreciate it. First and foremost, Cam-Lock couplings basically start out as metal fittings. And then you hit the 70s, and then we started doing plastic fittings. Like, those are not going to last. They're plastic. They're going to crack. They're going to break. They're junk. Okay. Well, so what happens is we had these in polypropylene. These are the first edition Cam-Lock couplings in plastic. They were all polypropylene. Primarily, we ran into them in the agricultural market, used because of the different chemicals that the ag market was using. Well, we had a company that we had competitions with, and we just could not defeat them for some reason. But these are polypropylene, which is basically a polypropylene which is very resistant to acids and chemical, pretty harsh chemicals. The only inherent problem that they have with these things is this is a very soft material. And the problem is you can easily cross-thread it. These actually, the threads can get marred, which is like they'll flatten out. And you can cross-thread them. So if you ran something across these things, these would get marred. And then you could easily cross-thread them. If you try to screw this into a metal, we'll say into a metal Cam-Lock coupling, you could easily cross-thread them. Cross-threading means that you're actually not following the Higby around here, and they're not actually going inside, okay? They're going a little bit on an angle. And because they're soft, you could easily do that. So what happens is we have this company that is making these, and we just cannot beat them. So we come up with a different alternative to that, and that would be called Niglass, okay? Basically, same mil spec. They pretty much look the same, don't they? They all work the same concept. Put your arms in. Make sure these handles are loose. And here's what a lot of people do wrong. They try to take this one handle down, and then watch what happens. You might not be able to see it there, but what happens is when you do that, and especially with a soft material like this, you cock the adapter in the coupler, and you'll notice just a little bit, you'll see the difference. You'll see this side in while that side's higher, and then what you try to do is you try to muscle this side down to get that other end in. Oh, we can do it. There's only one problem, folks. What happens is on a softer material like the polypropylene, you'll get a groove in here from the metal Cam-Lock coming down on that poly that's soft. Remember we mentioned it was soft? So what happens is now you have the propensity of these things leaking, because now when they sit in the coupling against the gasket, now they're not sitting as deep as they should be because now they're rounded off. So whenever you use a Cam-Lock coupling, always put the handles down simultaneously. And it's not easy when you're doing it loosely like that, but usually when you have it in a pump or something like that. So always put them up and down simultaneously. And these are lockable handles here. So what happens when you put these down, it engages so they don't pop open, or somebody inadvertently hits these things and they loosen them. You don't really want that to happen on a Cam-Lock coupling, because you never know what's running through these things. So you're saying to yourself, well, why are all these different colors? Aren't you?
Why are all these different colors, Patrick?
Every one means a different material, basically. And so why is this one yellow versus that one black? So why didn't they make it blue? Why did they make it green? Well, actually, the original owner of this company, Stuart R. Holmes, came up with this material back in the 70s. Some people call it New York glass because it's NY-glass, but it's actually Niglass, which is basically a nylon material along with fiberglass put together to make it a very strong, durable material. So what would happen on these, as we mentioned before in the softer threads on the polypropylene, these are a lot harder material than that. So if you took a coin, quarter, something like that, and you ran it across her like we mentioned earlier, you will mar these, but on these, you will not do that because this is a very strong material. PSI is a little bit better on this one, and the material is a lot stronger. Like we mentioned at the beginning, back when these came out, everybody said, "Oh, these are cheap, they're inexpensive, they'll crack, they'll break," because they're plastic, and plastic's cheap. Well, what we would do is actually take these and display them at a trade show, and we actually had a machine that would actually put it in there and bounce them off the machine, off the base, to show people they wouldn't break. Or the owner of the company would take this coupling and throw it against the ground to show you, which is quite an eye-opening thing to see this thing popping all over the place without breaking. But you're gonna say to yourself, okay, so why yellow? Well, actually, the reason why we chose yellow on these is because these fittings were basically used in the agricultural market. And since Stuart kind of came up with the material, he had the opportunity to come up with the color. And since we're agricultural related people back in the day, these would go out on the tractors out in the field. And guess what sticks out very bright on a tractor? The yellow. Could have put a green one out there, but it would match in with maybe somebody's green tractor, or blue or red, but it wouldn't show up. So he liked yellow because he said, if I'm driving down the street and I see a tractor over there and I see a yellow coupling, guess what? That's my coupling. So that's where he came up with the yellow idea. But so you got any questions on anything else on these?
So the main difference between is that these are the exact same usage, the exact same specs. They are interchangeable.
Correct.
With
So you could put that in there and it would work.
That's right. And then the only exception is the polypropylene are much more common, much more widely available,
Correct.
but a softer, less durable material. We developed the Niglass, the nylon-filled fiberglass, in order to make a more durable material that was going to stand up in the field, be more comparable to the old metal couplings, and is not going to deform, not going to break, and not going to cross-thread. Right?
Correct. And the other thing with the metal fittings, they would pit because they're out in the weather. And again, when with people, you would use aluminum, use the aluminum couplings on like tanker trucks when they're tanking the gasoline. They'd just drop these things on the ground. So after a while, these would oblong. And then what you do is you try to get the adapter, and you couldn't get the adapter in because it oblong. So these will not oblong. In other words, that will not become oval. Okay.
All right, and then we've got a couple of more specialized materials that are for kind of unique applications. Right?
So we had some customers approach us and say, well, hold on a second, we're using all of these, but I want to run, we'll say wine. I want to run wine through these. Well, this is polyglass, this is Niglass, but that word glass is scary to people. They think there's literally glass in their product, and they're afraid this is going to chip out. So this is actually white polypropylene. Okay, so it's basically this brother and this sister. Okay, just the difference is this has glass, this doesn't have glass, but white has that appearance of purity. So that's why we made these white.
And these we call our food flow couplings. So they hold the FDA certifications that they're approved for the food and beverage market.
That is
so
correct.
Same thing, but if you're required to have an FDA certification because you're in the food and beverage industry, this is the one that you want to go to.
That's best.
And then comes the top dog of them all.
Papa Bear. This bad boy here. Whew. You've got some stainless steel handles on here, this is polyvinyl diafluoroelastomer. Say that 10 times really quick.
AKA
PVDF. That's a lot easier. So it's commonly known as PVDF. This is the catch-all for everything, but it comes with a price.
That's right.
So what we do is on this one, this will handle some of the chemicals that even stainless steel cannot even handle. And this is a plastic that goes all the way up to 300 degrees. So you cannot do that with these, and please don't try this at home. You got to go with this one if you're doing really caustic, ultra pure water applications. You want to go with the PVDF. This is a very strong material. But again, it's very, very costly at the same time. So if you run something that's really caustic acid, superacid, this is going to be the one that's going to most likely handle it.
Yep.
In fact, we've seen in instances, I think I mentioned it before, but even some of the stainless steel fittings or stainless steel materials cannot even handle some of the chemicals we run into, and so they recommend you use this.
Right. And when the cost comes down to comparing it to a 316 stainless something, it doesn't necessarily look so bad.
Right.
So.
Right.
Okay, so we've got all types of different Cam-Lock couplings. The type of material you use depends on your application. They're all interchangeable, perform similar functions. Polypropylene, commonly available. It's a softer, not quite as durable material. Niglass is really our bread and butter, Specialty Sales claim to fame, a product that we brought to the market several years ago. It's a stronger and more durable material in the field. Food Flow, if you need your FDA certifications, and PVDF for those high temp and or extreme chemical applications. And one last thing I know you want to mention.
What was it? Obvious? This was an EPDM gasket that primarily has been used for in all of these that we use. But when it comes down to this one, you might want to check your chemical resistance, because EPDM might not hold up in the chemicals that you're using. You might have to put a Viton in this one. Mm-hmm. EPDM will work great on these. If you're running oils through these, you might want to use a Buna N, because that will work better with your oil base. And on these, we use an actual white FDA nitrile Buna
FDA approved gasket.
And that's white to match that, because that would not look good if you went with the black and the white on this one, okay? Because you're dealing with food again.
That's right. So we offer the gaskets that come with them. We offer in the different materials, EPTM for most. We can do a Food Flow, we can do a Buna for oil applications, and we can do a Viton for some of those serious chemicals. Mm-hmm. We also offer replacement gaskets for these, as your gasket might start to get compressed over time. And then we offer shims as well, which can shore up that gasket that goes underneath the gasket in the coupling, not on top. And will give a little bit more height to that gasket and a little more resistance to your connection.
And again, another item that Specialty Sales came up with back in the days. We invented that shim that we were putting under gaskets. We found out that people were losing these things were getting squished and they were leaking, so people were throwing them out and putting another one. We found out a 32nd inch shim would work just as well, but bring up that gasket up into the
just a little bit, and your gasket's still good.
Yeah.
So. All right, so we have all these in stock for the most part. We're selling a lot of the Niglass ones. That's kind of our claim to fame, especially into the ag market this time of year. So let us know if you have any other questions on the various applications, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Have a nice day.